Hi guys, this is T for T Academy, and if you ever wondered how can you travel for dirt cheap and save as much as possible yet to still find joy within, today's topic is for you. Because today I'm going to discuss with you low budget traveling. I truly believe that this is just like anything else, a skill. You can develop it, you can practice it, you can learn it. It's not rocket science, you don't need to go to university, right? So, in my humble opinion, if you do it for long enough time, it becomes not only a habit, but a natural reaction, a natural way of living, and it's just a matter of practice. So, like cycling, like running, like all sorts of sports, if you spend like approximately 10,000 hours, which comes down to like 5 years, let's say, then you're going to master this skill. And it's not something you have to force. Because let's face it, whatever we learn in life, we always have to force in the beginning, right? Because we just cannot simply be born runners. We cannot simply be born skydivers, cannot simply be born, you name it. So after 5 years, I got to the point when it was on an autopilot. Before that, I was struggling through low budget traveling because, yeah, I gotta admit, I'm not coming from a rich background. I've never really had my own business, which would allow the financial streams to flow without any hurdles, without any obstacles, right? So, guys, in order to travel for cheap, you really have to cut costs. It's simple as that. You don't need to make a huge planning. You don't need to hire accountants. You don't need to download this or that. You just simply need to listen to this audio and you'll find the answers within. Why? Because, like I said, it's not rocket science. It doesn't really require further preparation. You're going to live low budget. You're going to be frugal while you're doing it. It's not something you can meditate on it, or it's not something you can pray about it. At least it wasn't the case for me. So in the beginning, actually, no matter how hard I tried, I've always spent more. Why? Because you couldn't always estimate, especially in the beginning phase of this learning curve, how much you should and how much you're going to spend during your next adventure, right? And it's really frustrating in the beginning because you go and you're just like biting your own fist that, oh damn, I shouldn't have spent that one, or I should have estimated this one, why I wasn't thinking about this one prior to the journey, and so on. So in the beginning, it's not going to be easy, it's going to be demoralizing in a sense that you cannot be good at it in the beginning. You're going to think that, oh, I'm not going to spend this, I'm not going to buy that, and eventually you're going to think that you're not going to eat at all. You're not going to visit any places at all, you're not going to fly, you're not going to do that and that. And that's ludicrous because traveling comes with expenses. Whatever you say, it comes with expenses. Bottom line, the visa to get there. Of course, later on I'm going to talk about how you can travel for free, but at this stage, it's just a matter of cutting the cost to a level when you can save as much as possible, yet you can still find joy within. But before I crack in, I wanted to emphasize that low budget traveling means a different way of traveling in Norway than in Laos. Why? Simply because of the gap between the two countries. Those economies are completely different, 180 degrees different from each other, right? So let's say in Laos for $20, you can easily travel for, let's say, 3 days, accommodation, food included, right? However, if you go to Norway, like just say, taking the bus from the city center to the airport is probably going to cost you like $15 alone. And then I haven't mentioned the living expenses, food, accommodation, further traveling. And of course, if you live in Norway, then your income will be way much higher than anywhere else pretty much in the world. However, if you're just backpacking through Laos, then you don't really need to worry about spending much money because Laos, it's not only one of the cheapest in the region, but it's one of the cheapest I've ever been to be honest. Nevertheless, this is one thing you have to realize, that you cannot just use one cliche, one figure for all countries, for all regions, for all sorts of traveling. I mean, if you're a mountaineer, you have to expect spending way much more money than just like doing sightseeing or crossing Asia or whatever. When you cross Asia, all you need is your bloody fun. You lift it, you get a ride, and most likely you're gonna get fed, offered accommodation, you name it. However, if you're a mountaineer or if you're a skydiver or if you're traveling for running competitions, and you gotta worry about the food, the accommodation, you cannot just like hope someone's gonna let you sleep at her place before the race. You need to get sleep. You gotta put money in it, and also to get prepared for the race. It's just like a completely different topic. So I'm gonna get into this later in a further episode. Right now, like I said, I really want to stick to this just general low budget traveling. What's the concept behind it? How to start and what will be the obstacles in the beginning phase of the learning curve. So now that we established that different regions will require different minds and different estimations and expenditures, I want to move to the next one, where I would like to discuss like the mental hurdles, the mental settings for low budget traveling. So like I said, low budget traveling is not for everyone. It's not for everyone simply because we are different people, we're different personalities, we have different desires, different wishes in life. Low budget traveling is a sort of traveling where you must give up on certain desires, certain expectations, certain standards of yours, principles if you like. And that's really hard, especially in the beginning, because you have your expectations like staying in a hostel or just going to a friend's place or going to a hotel at different levels, right? And if you want to cut costs, you have to cut your desires as well. It's easy, yes, because you just cannot afford everything what you want. If you do, then it's not going to be low budget traveling. It's about being conscious about your expenses. And in many cases, being conscious means that you're not going to take the zip line, you're not going to do skydiving, you're not going to do that and this. Why? Because you have to minimize your expenses. However, and I feel obliged to talk about it, and this is today's punchline, that you just simply cannot lose joy so you can cut your cost. You cannot sacrifice the core point of traveling just to be frugal, just to be stingy, if you like. You know, the difference between stingy and frugal is more on a conscious level, whereas being stingy is just like saving money here and there, and then all you care about is saving, right? And as you care about saving so much, then obviously you have to sacrifice on your experience. Let me give you a good example. Back then in 2011, when I started low budget traveling, actually, in India, Pakistan, that was like a 6 weeks long journey, right? I just loved it. But anyways, what I want to say is that I rented this motorbike ride from Delhi, going through Jaipur and Agra to see Taj Mahal. So it is called the Golden Triangle anyways. And as I was riding through and I arrived to Agra, I saw that there are two different lines queuing up for the tickets in front of Taj Mahal, right? So I went to the one which was clearly for me, because there was like one for locals, one out of home from foreigners. You may recognize I'm not from there. And I just couldn't understand in the beginning, like, why do we have two different lines? This is just like bloody discrimination, or what is that supposed to mean? So as I was getting closer to the ticket booth, I realized quickly that actually there are two different prices, two different ticket booth sellings. One is for locals, which is exactly the 10th of the price. I'm not kidding, I'm not exaggerating. And for foreigners. And I was like, holy cow, I'm not going to pay that. This is discrimination. I thought we're treated equally. Why am I supposed to pay more just because I'm coming from another country? Just because my skin is whiter, it doesn't mean that my country is richer. And it's pretty much the case, by the way. We're getting sooner or later there. Nevertheless, I thought like, oh, you can't make me. You are not going to make it. So I left. I didn't pay it. I just walked a bit further. I tried to find a few steps where I could take a look at the top of the Taj Mahal from outside. And guys, if you travel long enough time, you're going to understand that most likely you're not going to return to the place where you have been before. And same with India. I left India without visiting Taj Mahal, and I'm not really obsessed with these like museums and world wonders and fancy fancy and famous places. But Taj Mahal was one of the few I really wanted to see. And back then I was so conscious about my expenses that I decided not to visit it. And that's bad. It's really bad because then I sacrificed my experience just to cut cost. And then I lost the core of traveling. Then I lost the heart of traveling, the beauty of traveling, because I wasn't enjoying it. I was so obsessed mentally to cut costs, to save as much as possible, that I missed the chance. I missed an opportunity to experience something different, to try something new. Whether it's visiting Taj Mahal or jumping out of the plane, it's the same concept in this particular case. Because now you're sacrificing the most important thing, which is fun. I mean, we are not discussing traveling for work this time. We're not discussing traveling for family. We're discussing traveling for life, traveling for joy, traveling for experience. These are beautiful things. But if you're just so single-minded on saving the money, then you're going to lose it. Then it's just like a savor disregarded thing, which will not bring you anything but boredom, but grayish, this suffering feeling, because you cannot live up to the potential. You cannot take 100% out of the experience, right? All right, let's stick to India. I really like this example because it's not only the Taj Mahal, but also the food poisoning, what I can bring and relate to low budget traveling. So as I was traveling North India towards Pakistan, we went via Dharamsala. That's the place where the Dalai Lama is residing, by the way, Lower Tibet, Indian part. And I thought this, like, I love samosa, you know, this like tetrahedral shaped food filled with veggies or mutton, whatever. Anyways, I love that. And in that bus stop, I was like, holy moly, like this is half of the price, right? And I was like, oh, I'm going to save money. This is textbook low budget traveling, straight up, hey. So I shoot off the bus, and then I just bought, I think like 4 or 5 pieces of that. Started to eat because I was super hungry as well. And after 20 minutes, I started to vomiting. And it didn't really stop for 2 weeks. I had this massive diarrhea. I had this like throwing up heavy 24/7 basically. I could hardly even drink. Nothing stick to my stomach. I lost 8 kilos in 10 days. I think it's a new record if you're asking me. Anyway, so I went to Pakistan with this super vegetative state. I couldn't enjoy it. I couldn't trek. I couldn't do anything. I went to the northern part of Pakistan, which is not only dangerous, but unbelievably beautiful. It's just a breathtaking scenery. You can check it out, the pictures, by the way. It's called Kagan Valley. And I was just sitting over there. I went to school to see the kids, to talk to the kids and so on. But other than that, I could hardly do anything because my body was in just such a bad state that I could hardly do anything. I could hardly eat, I could hardly walk. And you know, I had the visa to Iran. Back then it's hard even for European Union citizens. And I couldn't go there. I had to buy a flight ticket from Karachi, Pakistan, and fly back to Netherlands to be hospitalized because my body was just in such a bad shape that I couldn't stand it anymore. And also I wanted to do mountaineering in Iran, so I saw that there is no way that I can walk more than 1 kilometer straight up, not to mention in a high altitude environment. So yeah, I had to fly back. I got a hospitalization, the extra flight tickets, missing the flight tickets prior, I bought prior to my journey in Iran. I missed the activities, missed the mood because that was not fun at all. That was not a good experience, I can tell you, mate. Because for 2 weeks I was just suffering from this food poisoning and didn't get any better. I had to take some special antibiotics. Long story short, low budget traveling is not about losing the experience. Low budget traveling is being conscious about your expenses, but not that conscious that you lose joy, that you lose fun within, that you sacrifice your experience, you sacrifice your desires. And when I say desires, I don't mean that you should stick to the hotels or hostels. No. And now I'm going to talk about how can you solve the accommodation part. Couchsurfing. I'm pretty sure if you follow my Facebook page, you already know, which you should, by the way. It's down in the description, nevertheless. You already met this Couchsurfer project. So this Couchsurfer is actually just like, you write an email to the other person, and then the person can decide upon your references whether she likes you or not, and then you stay at the Couchsurfer's place for free for a few nights. It's up to you guys, up to discussion. Our longest stay was, I think, 3 months over Couchsurfing. So it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat, and it's working amazing. I found all sorts of things over there. Anyways, the other thing I want to talk about is hitchhiking, simply because it's just like a whole lot different level. It's a whole lot different level. And first, Couchsurfing comes, and then hitchhiking. Why? Because, okay, let me give you this example. Traditional dating and new age dating, what do I mean by this? In traditional dating, you talk to the girl face to face, or boy, depends, right? And in Couchsurfing, you just like sit behind the computer and send all those requests, sometimes even copy pasting in them. And they just like, you don't really have the exposure to this face-to-face confrontation. If you get rejected, you just read an email that, oh, that person just declined the request. So what? I'm sending another dozen to other Couchsurfers in the same city, right? So it's really easy. It's not as confrontational as hitchhiking. Because hitchhiking is, whether you like it or not, whether you accept it or not, it's exposure to rejection, to face-to-face rejection. And of course, your ego will not going to like it in the beginning and later on either, but eventually, as time passes, you're gonna get used and you're gonna just, next drive will come and it's gonna be even better. There's this really nice TED talk I came across on the other day. It's given by a Croatian person, speaker, and he said, no matter how long you have to wait, the right ride will come. And this is just, couldn't be more true. Couldn't be, because I've never got disappointed from hitchhiking. I had doubts about hitchhiking, no questions about that, because there were times I had to wait 3 hours by the road, and I heard stories where they were waiting 18 hours by the road. You know, it's just like crazy sometimes. Of course, the more remote area you go, the higher risk you have to take, but then the bigger the price, bigger the reward. Because once you get picked up after 3 hours, you just love that person. You just love it, like no questions again, because you are so relieved, you are so happy that finally someone picked you up. The level of happiness is just like completely different, right? So let me get back to this rejection exposure, whether face-to-face or behind the computer thing. As you stand by the road, you can simply just raise your thumb, and then it's easy. All you have to do is just wait. However, as the driver is coming, you have to look into his or her eyes, because that's how we develop the trust, right? That's how we gain likes or dislikes, through face-to-face exposure, in my opinion. And of course, as the driver is passing you and not stopping you, it feels bad. It really does, because you just say, am I not worthy? Do I look poor, or what's wrong with me? Why she is not picking me up? And then the next driver is coming, the next and the next. And of course, your ego will repeat the same thing over and over again whenever a driver is passing you, not picking you up. What are you doing here? Why don't you just catch the first bus? Why don't you just go and take the train? Why don't you ask your friend to pick you up? Why did you travel in the first place? Because the ego does not want you to be rejected. The ego tries to protect not only itself, but you as well, from rejection, from disappointment. Speaking of which, guys, in the link below, you can find my ebook about hitchhiking. I really break this down to tiny details, and I'll guide you through how to start hitchhiking. So now I'm just going to talk about as little as possible in order to get a good advice how to start low budget traveling. But you can read about hitchhiking in details, and I'm focusing only on hitchhiking in that book. Just check out the link below. Okay, the other one is Couchsurfing. I've already mentioned. Over there, you just like, you don't have this face-to-face exposure, and that's where you can cut huge costs, because whatever you do, night will come sooner or later, right? We have to sleep, we need a shower every once in a while, And we cannot deny this. It feels nice to sleep in a bed. So of course, if you are an outdoor person, then you don't mind sleeping in your tent. But let's face it, it's really nice to sleep at someone's place. I mean, I just love couch surfing, not only because I get to sleep for free, but also because of the people I meet. They always give me values. They reflect upon my future, my past, and my present as well. And this is just beautiful because it's not only financially you're better off, but also your personal development will just like rockets up. I've evolved most of the cases when I was doing couch surfing or hitchhiking, because then you're exposed to completely different experiences. The amount of trust, love, and help you get through couch surfing and hitchhiking is just like unspeakable. It's amazing. I'm just super obsessed with this. So anyways, couch surfing is an amazing way to start low budget traveling, to practice it, because then you're going to be more social. If you are more social, you are easier to talk to people. If you are easier to talk to people, then you're going to be able to ask for more help. And you're not going to see it as an embarrassing thing, but more like a challenge, more like a tool to unleash the potential within you, to experience more, to visit more places, to do low budget traveling style, even on a higher level. And then after couch surfing, at least that was the way for me. First I started off with couch surfing because it was like hardly any exposure to rejection, so my ego allowed me more. And then I started off hitchhiking. It took me 2 years, guys, 2 bloody years, to convince myself that yes, hitchhiking is something I have to try as well. Couchsurfing and hitchhiking will greatly reduce your expenses, because when you travel, transportation is going to eat most of your money alongside with accommodation. But by doing couchsurfing and hitchhiking, you're going to get these factors out of the way. And then basically you get to the point when you only need to spend on food. As I was talking about couchsurfing and hitchhiking, I want to emphasize that don't start everything at once, because then it's going to be overwhelming. You're going to cut your cost, you're going to change the way of living so suddenly that most likely your mind will not bear it. And you just say, oh damn, this is shit, I'm not going to do that, I'm not willing to put up with this shit. And I wouldn't blame you. I started with couchsurfing, then with hitchhiking, then eat more street food, then be more conscious about that and that and that. It's a process. Like I said in the very beginning, if you remember, it's a learning curve. You cannot just say, go this and then this, straight up. You gotta allow yourself time. And just like with businesses, with sport, with study, it's all about patience. Because like I said again, like in the beginning, you're going to spend more than you wish, more than you plan, more than you expect. Because the learning curve, you cannot be as smart as you cannot learn about low budget traveling simply by listening, simply by reading about it. You gotta go out and do, and you have to accept you're going to get rejected. You're going to spend more. You're going to have expenses you didn't even think about it. You're going to see the world from a completely different point of view, because you just shifted from backpacking to low budget backpacking, low budget traveling, if you like. And that's gonna eat up your time. It took me 5 years actually from the very first moment I tried it to the point when I said, okay, I think I can estimate pretty well. I can call myself low budget traveler. I can call myself frugal, not stingy. I understood that, okay, this is the time when I have to spend. This is the time when I'm able to save. You know, you have to recognize the opportunities. You have to understand that what's the situation when you are able to save and what's the situation when you should spend, because otherwise you just sacrifice, again, joy. You sacrifice fun. You give up on the core, on the soul and spirit of traveling. And if you do so, then I don't even see any reason why traveling. Just to tell your friends that you traveled through Asia or traveled through Europe, but did you enjoy it? No, you were just hitchhiking across and stayed in a city that you covered 1,000 kilometers each day, but did you have fun? I don't think so. Unless all your goal is to just hitchhike through Europe, then it's all good. But most of the travelers, let's face it, they just want to explore new places, want to get experience, want to be exposed to new, because they're just so bored about this like hamster wheel 9-to-5 life that those are the ones who are seeking for some sort of new adventure in their lives. That's why most of the 18 years old or most of the 34 years old are doing this, because it's either the gap year after high school or just quitting your job after working for a corporation for 9 to 10 years. So the other punchline I want to share with you today is, do not sacrifice fun for money. You cannot simply cut costs completely and still keep the joy fun. You have to understand when you are able, when you should be frugal and when you should put money in it. And in the beginning, I wish you patience, because you're going to face rejections on the road. You're going to face disappointment. You're going to question that, hey, is this low budget traveling really for me? And yeah, I gotta tell you, it's not for everyone. And most of the people realize while doing low budget traveling that low budget traveling is not for that person. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. Some people are meant to be bricklayers, others meant to be lawyers. Some people are meant to be doctors, others meant to be firefighters. And that's beautiful. Same way, not everybody is born to become a low budget traveler, not everybody is born to become a nurse. You gotta experience it, and once you do it, then you're able to judge, okay, this is not for me. All right, this is something I should learn about deeper. This is something I'm interested in, But at least you have experienced, and then you have the right to judge it, to choose whether it's for you or not. So guys, just stay tuned, because in a week, I'm going to launch the next episode as well. Speaking of which, check out all the links mentioned below there, because I'm sharing the Instagram and Facebook account alongside with TeePolgar.com, where you can find the hitchhiking book. As I mentioned, it's really a valuable booklet, especially if you are interested in low budget traveling. And let's face it, you've been listening to my speech for over 20 minutes now, so I highly recommend to get that book. That's going to guide you through all the obstacles, all the struggles in the beginning phase, as well as the pros and cons, why you should not do hitchhiking, and when you should not do hitchhiking, more importantly. So get that book, stay tuned, next week a new episode. Bye.